Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with Misery, Chapter 7. He was already 9 pages into Chapter 7. Jeffrey and Mrs. Ramage had managed to get Misery out of her grave in the barest nick of time, only to realize the woman had no idea at all who they are, or who she herself was. When Annie came into the room, this time Paul heard her. He stopped typing, sorry to be out of the dream. She held the first 6 chapters at the side of her skirt. It had taken less than 20 minutes to read the first stab at it. It had been an hour since she had taken the sheaf of 21 pages. He looked at her steadily, observing with faint interest that Annie Wilkes was a bit pale. "Well," he asked, "is it fair?" "Well," she said absently, as if this was a foregone conclusion, and Paul supposed it was. "It's fair, and it's good, exciting, but it's gruesome, too. It's not like any other Misery books. The poor woman who scraped the ends of her fingers off." She shook her head and repeated, "It's not like any of the other Misery books." The man who wrote these pages was in a rather gruesome frame of mind, my dear, Paul thought. Shall I go on?" he asked. "I'll kill you if you don't," she responded with a smile. Paul didn't smile back. This comment, which once would have struck him in a league with such banalities, "You look so good, I could just eat you up now," seemed not banal at all. Yet something in her attitude, as she stood in the doorway, fascinated him. It was as if she was little frightened to come any closer, as if she thought something in him might burn her. It wasn't the subject of premature burial that had done it, and he was wise enough to know it. No, it was the difference between his first try and this one. The first one had all the life of an 8th grader's, how I spent my summer vacation theme. This one was different. The Ferns was on. Oh no, not that he had written particularly well. The story was hot, but the characters as stereotyped and predictable as ever. But this time he had been able to at least generate some power. This time there was a heat making out between the lines. Amused, he thought. She felt the heat. "I think she's afraid to get too close, in case I might burn her." "Well," he said mildly, "you won't have to kill me, Annie. I want to go on, so why don't I get at it?" "All right," she said. She brought the pages to him, put them on board, and then stepped back quickly. "Would you like to read as I go along?" he asked. Annie smiled. "Yes, it'll only be like the chapter plays when I was a kid." "Well, I can't promise a cliffhanger at the end of every chapter," he said. "It just doesn't work that way." "It will for me," she said fervently. "I want you to know what was going to happen in Chapter 18, even if 17 ended with Misery and Ian and Jeffrey sitting with armchairs on the porch, reading newspapers. I'm already wild to know what's going to happen next. Don't tell me," she added sharply, as if Paul had offered to do this. "Well, I generally don't show my work until it's done," he said, and then he smiled at her. "But since it's a special situation, I'll let you read chapter by chapter." And to be in the 1,001 Nights of Paul Sheldon, he thought. "Well, I wondered if you'd do something for me." "What?" "Fill in the damn ends," he said. She smiled at him radiantly. "It would be an honor. I'll leave you alone now." She went back to the door, hesitated there, and turned back. Then with deep and almost painful timidity, she offered the only editorial suggestion she ever made to him. Maybe it was a B. He had already dropped his gaze to the sheet of paper and the typewriter. He was looking for a hole. He wanted Misery to get back to Mrs. Ramage's cottage before it knocked off. And he looked up at Annie with carefully disguised impatience. "I beg your pardon?" "A B," she said, and he saw a blush creeping up in her neck over her cheeks. Soon even her ears were glowing. "One in every dozen is allergic to bee venom. I saw lots of it before I retired from the service as RN. The allergy came to show in a lot of different ways. Sometimes a sting might cause a comatose condition, which is similar to what people used to call a catalepsy." Now she was red. She was almost purple. Paul held out the idea to reason his mind and then tossed in the scrap heap. A bee could have been the cause of Miss Evelyn Hyde's unfortunate live burial. It even makes sense, since it had been happening in the mid-spring, in the garden to boot. But he had already decided that the credibility depended on the lives of 2 burials being relayed somehow, and misery had succumbed into her bedroom. The fact that fall was already bee season was not really the problem. The problem was the rarity of the cataleptic reaction. He thought Constant Reeser would not allow 2 unrelated women in neighbor townships being buried alive 6 months apart as a result of bee stings. Yet he could not tell any of that, and not just because it might rile her up. He could not tell her because it would hurt her badly. In spite of all the pain had afforded him, he found he could not hurt her in that way. He had been hurt that way himself. He fell back on the most common writer's workshop euphemism. You got possibilities, all right. I'll drop it into the hopper, Annie, but I've already got some ideas in mind. It may not fit. Oh, I know that. You're the writer, not me. Just forget I said anything. I'm sorry. Don't be. But she was gone, her heavy tread almost running down the hallway to the parlor. He was looking at an empty space. His eyes widened and then dropped. On either side of the doorway, about 10 inches up from the floor, was a black mark. They had been left, he understood, at once, by the hubs of the wheelchairs when he forced his way through. So far, she hasn't noticed them. It had been almost a week, and her failure to notice it seemed like a small miracle. But soon, tomorrow, perhaps even this afternoon, she would be in vacuum, and then she would. She would. Paul managed very little during the rest of the day. The hole in the paper had disappeared. And I'm going to stop it right there. Thanks for listening.